Do you remember your first point of connection in this process? Was it at rehab? Was it, you know?
I was on an island.
Yeah.
Justifiably. I've worked through all of this. My wife was done. And she will tell you that this situation pushed her alcoholism farther. And we completely separated. And I was not receiving any sort of emotional support from her, which she didn't have to give me. She also was receiving none from me, right? You know what I mean? And again, all justifiable, understandable. My job, like I came back and I'm like ready to go back to the career that I'd put the previous 10 plus years into. I was a partner in the company. It was my entire life, honestly, and retrospectively, right? They were done with me. And I still had people there and I still had friends there. But like that was over. And that was of all things outside of that moment I told you with my older daughter in school, of all things, that was the hardest pill for me to swallow over everything else. I didn't have that. My friends who were all drinkers, like my close friends. I mean, I remember one of them being like, you need to stop being so depressed. You need to stop this, stop that. And I'm like, I didn't have them. And I had two people in my life, actually the founder of the company, his name's Tyson Cole, very well-known and successful chef here in Austin and beyond now. And then another great friend of mine and successful chef, Nick Giannis. These two men made a point every day to check on me, pick me up, take me to the gym, take me to lunch, whatever needed to happen. And those were the people that kept me from being completely isolated and alone. But I was on island. I'd lost everything. The media and greater food community that I had made a place in at the top, I felt completely abandoned by, and some of them completely turned on. Some of it was made up, but I would read the comments in the articles. I would read the comments on the Eater Austin posts and the shitty articles that were written about me. And every time my name came up or something I was affiliated with came up, a link back to that video. I mean, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of them on websites everywhere that link back to that video, and then comments of like, this piece of shit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like, I felt completely abandoned. I felt like I had built this whole life on my work and the work that I had done. And you know, granted, like I'm in my ego, I'm in that world. I think it's important, and it is important to some degree, but like, I think it is, you know, I'm in this like stage of complete breakdown, and everything that I had built around that I felt had turned on me. So I was very much on an island. Those two men, to go back to that, they saved me. And they're to this day two of my best friends, and will always be. But yeah, that's what it took. And then eventually I was able to start building a little bit of community and finding some, like, I had to like me again. And there's some videos in that first year. I didn't talk for a year. I didn't speak to anyone for a year, or speak to any press or media for a year. I was so mad. I was mad at alcohol. I was mad at the hospitality business. I was mad at the media. I was mad at myself more than anything. But like, I was so angry. And then finally, that first video I did, I mean, I start off saying I'm a real piece of shit. Like, I still wasn't okay, right? A year in, like, it takes, you said, you know, in that first 90 to 120 days, and you still don't really know what's going on. I mean, that first year, it was just anger. I mean, for a couple of years. I mean, I would say year 3 or 4, it was still anger and vigor. So mad, and I was mad at everything. And again, it was mostly myself. You know, I was so hard on myself for that. So yeah, the isolation somewhat did come from a lack of support from people who were closest to me, because They were either done, exhausted, disappointed, or didn't know how to deal with me because I had no support for myself too. So how can anybody else come to you when you can't even do it for you?
Right.
But those two guys tried, and they tried and tried and tried, and they helped make breakthroughs for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting in these types of conversations when we talk about, early on in sobriety, early on in recovery. A lot of us remember those people that stepped up, and they might not even have realized at that time how impactful it really was. But in these conversations, you realize like there might not have been anyone else.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary, right? That's what's terrifying, and that's why I wanted to do this podcast.
Right.
Ain't Dead Yet, is because what if they don't have those close friends that are taking them to lunch, or maybe taking them to a support group or to the gym, and this is where this is where another connection we have is that I had those people as well, right? That were like, hey, come do this, or let's go here, or like, let me pick you up and take you to the store. And I had that too. And my fear though, or my concern is there are people out there that maybe don't have that. And I just want to find a way to reach out to them and communicate to them and say, hey, one, you're not alone. And two, if you need somebody, there are people that are willing to show up for you.
Absolutely. And there absolutely are.